Hello and welcome to the Alchemy of Ascension Season 2. I'm your host, Washela Sananda, and we are exploring our galactic origins and becoming multidimensional. And today we're going to have a really fun conversation with Louise Matson. Welcome, Louise.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure. Welcome. Thank you.
So Louise is such an interesting person, and I met her from, we mutually both were on the same summit, and then there was a networking that came out of that summit, and that's how we got connected. And it's just so fun to be connected to these powerful multidimensional people, and she's someone I really want to share with you. Louise is a conscious intuitive channel. I know you've studied shamanism, and you have a series called Mundane to Magical, which I think is fascinating. And I also know that you came in awake, and I find that really fascinating. So I would love to start on that note and just hear a little bit about what does it mean to come in awake, and how do you navigate that? What was that like for you?
So coming in awake, obviously I didn't realize at the time that everyone else wasn't exactly the same, because it's just who you are and how you are. And so my earliest memories are knowing that we are so much more than this physical form, knowing who we truly are in our multidimensional creator beingness. I would communicate with the trees. I would see what others obviously couldn't see. My best friends were dragons. I would live in this beautiful world that exists beyond the five normal senses, and is around us all the time anyway, but I would be consciously aware of that. I would feel people's pain. I would know things that there's no way I could have known. And I would place my hands upon people and take their pain away. And then once I'd taken the pain away, when I got a chance, I would then go to the trees and say, can you take this from me? Because I would be a container until I could discharge it, as it were, through the trees. I would just be living in this beautiful, magical world. Fortunately, there is no mistakes. That's one thing that I do want to absolutely make clear. My beautiful journey was to be born into a family that were very, very conventional. My dad was in our Air Force in the UK, a very conventional background. I grew up believing that everybody else on this planet was an alien. And I was like, where am I? What is this and what's going on? Because I realized at a very early age, nobody got me. Nobody understood, and actually it frightened them. And so I remember my mum basically threatening me to be locked up, to be taken away and put in an asylum if I continued being me. And I remember it being the white van with the yellow wheels, which probably doesn't really exist, but from a child's perspective, that's how I envisaged it. So I consciously put everything in a box. I locked all of the bits of me that didn't seem to fit in this world of aliens. And I consciously put it in a box inside myself, and I slammed the lid down and went, you're not safe. I'm not going anywhere near you. And did everything I possibly could to fit in. The thing is, you can never give up who you are, truly, even when you consciously try and put it in a box and lock it away. So I would basically read everybody who came into contact with me to find out what they wanted from me and give it to them. So it's very exhausting for anybody else out there who's doing it and wearing multi-masks and, going against their truth just to fit in and be loved. It's exhausting because you're constantly hypersensitive, on red alert, soaking up all this information so that you can wear the right mask for the people who are around you. And it got to the point where I was at school one day and somebody said, "What's your name?" And I said, "What do you want it to be?" I mean, that is literally how far I went to disempower myself and step out of my truth to try and fit in. But you know, it was basically living a life that I perceived to be the lives of everyone around me. But it was also like walking through treacle. And you know, so there was many times that I would just be like, beam me up, you know, just take me away, take me home. What is going on? Why am I here? Kind of thing. Because I had so disconnected myself from that aspect of myself, I even kind of denied that I was even connected to that wisdom anymore. And so, you know, I kind of really shut down all access to the support and the guidance and everything else that was there for me. But it was a beautiful journey, because if I had been born into a family where they got it, I would have just purely taken it for granted. I would never have experienced the life that most people on this planet are living as their normal lives, because most people on the planet go through an awakening process because they've been fast asleep. I did this was part of my journey to disempower myself and allow everybody to disempower me, so that I could experience that, so that I could speak the language of those who that has been their lives too, and assist them on the awakening process, which for me was literally just allowing myself to fully step into who I truly knew myself to be. And there was a lot of fear along that journey, and a lot of other baggage that I created for myself to fulfill that experience. But yeah, so it was an interesting childhood. It was an interesting younger adulthood with many different experiences and pain points, but it was also perfect and beautiful at the same time. And the realization that actually I kidded myself to think that I was disconnected because I was using my intuition, I was using the channeling all the time to literally navigate my way through.
Wow, yeah, beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. And I really got a vision of you as a child and not being able to be yourself, like not being allowed to be yourself. And that, you know, even being threatened to be sent away if you behave, you're in your natural way of being. So you became kind of the chameleon, able to give people what they wanted, everybody except you, right? And so and isn't that the most like, you know, the longest journey is learning how to give back to ourselves when you've learned to survive by making other people happy, or making other people accept you, or at least think that they accept you. So that was courageous to what was the thing in your life that had you say, okay, that's enough. I have to just authentically be who I am. I don't care anymore what other people say. I'm just going to get out there, because that takes courage.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. And like I say, you know, I was kidding myself to think that it was locked in a box, because the universe was constantly nudging me. And I'm sure other people will have experienced that too. And there was a number of different experiences. I was so far down the line of disempowering myself and allowing others to disempower me. And, you know, we draw a line in the sand and we say, okay, that's my boundary and people aren't going to step over that. Somebody steps over, oh, okay, I'm going to draw the line here then. And we keep doing it and we keep doing it. Well, I'd got to the point where it's like, the line can't get any closer to me. I was in an abusive relationship. I had a small child. My son was about, I don't know, 3 or 4. And the universe nudged me down the stairs. I was literally walking down the stairs to go to work. The next thing I know, I knew something was wrong. Everything went into slow motion. I was watching it happening from outside of myself. And the next thing, I'm on the floor at the bottom of the stairs. I managed to get myself to the settee, but I really can't remember anything of that whole day. I don't know where my son was. I don't know what happened to my partner. I can't recall anything. But by the end of the day, when my partner suddenly reappeared, I said, I know something's not right. I couldn't move. I had no sensation. I had no movement. I was basically tetraplegic. And so they rushed me to hospital, and I was paralyzed from the neck down. I was C3, C4. And this was for a week, which, I feel completely blessed that it was only for a week. But at the time, that was my awareness of my reality was, well, this is it. I'm 26 years old. I've got a 4-year-old child. This is it. And when I recovered, I had a year of not being able to do anything. I was in an emergency collar, then that progressed to a soft collar, but I wasn't allowed to lift anything. I wasn't allowed to do anything. And that year gave me the opportunity to really go into my shadow work, to review my whole life, review all of my relationships, review how I was behaving, how far I had gone from my truth, how far I had allowed people to draw my boundaries closer and closer until I had no boundaries. And it was a massive, massive golden opportunity for me. And because it also really brought into focus the mortality of this physical form, and I was faced with death, the death of all the life that I'd ever experienced before in that point, and all the life that I'd imagined for myself. It was beautiful because I didn't fear it anymore. And I let myself open up. And I made some massive changes in my life, completely changed the relationship with my parents, completely changed my outlook on life. I allowed my truth in, I would say probably about 60-70%. I still remained in the relationship because I wasn't ready to be a single parent, but then I was feeling extremely vulnerable. But that changed over a period of, 6 months to 2 years. The next one was the death of my dad. He contracted cancer in 2015. But the thing with that is I knew when I was younger, and I told him, and I remembered telling him when I was younger, that if he didn't release the anger that he held inside and begin to love himself, that he would get cancer. And so that was a beautiful part of the journey, because it was witnessing and honoring somebody else's decision and choice in their own journey, knowing that I could do something about it because I'd done healing with him before and taken cancer from him and put it on myself, and knew I'd overstepped that boundary, so I wasn't going to do that again. So allowing him to go through this terminal illness, because that was his choice, he wasn't ready to heal, that was fine. But also then being faced with, my mum had Alzheimer's, she didn't know who I was anymore, and my dad had just died, and I realized I didn't have a clue who I was. I had been everything for these people that they wanted me to be. I'd been everything for everybody that I perceived what they wanted me to be, and I actually had no idea who I was anymore. So I took about a year of dark night of the soul, just completely imploding, because it was like everything that I'd created to be my truth was built on sand, and that sand had just gone. So the rug was really pulled out from under me with that, and it made me realize, actually, it's time to be yourself and be who you truly are. So it was kind of like a journey back to me. That's kind of how I saw it.
Wow, that's an amazing story. And It's interesting. You think about that question of why do bad things happen to good people? At such a young age, and you're a young mom, and to have a fall where you're faced with your death, it turns out to be a really empowering experience, because I know for so many people that brush with death, it, like you said, has you overcome your fear of death, and then your whole life changes, because that's the biggest fear that we have. And when that one's behind you, you can really move forward in a whole different way. So yeah, thank you for sharing all of that. That's powerful. And so I know when you came, you came into your ownership of, the truth of who you are, your sovereignty. And I know sovereignty is very important to you and a big part of what you're about.
Yeah.
I want to hear, your philosophy on sovereignty. Let's just start there. Like, what is that to you? What does that mean? And what is your relationship with sovereignty now at this point?
It's an interesting one, because when from a very egoic human, like the man aspect of the human bit, we see sovereignty and we see power as a negative. It's like something over. But sovereignty to me is the reclamation of our true power, which is our truth. That's what power is. It is your truth. It's like, who are you truly? Being able to fully reconnect with your light, with everything that you came here to be, with the multidimensional aspects of who you are. Yes, me as Lou, the little human, and me as Louise, the one in between, and me as Louise Ellen Matson, the kind of highest aspect and representation of myself, the me as the archangels, the me as the galactics, the me as all of the higher vibrational beings that I've been channeling. It was all me. And that's what sovereignty is. Connecting and owning all of yourself. The good, the bad. There is no good and bad, but from a lower perspective, like all those bits that you've hidden from everybody else, but you knew about within yourself, all those bits that you had no idea about because you'd even hidden them from yourself, and you really then go into that bit of yourself. It's like owning it all and loving it all, because it's all perfect. It's all your power. It's your truth. It's who you are. Being a human is messy. That's what we came to experience. We came to experience mess and emotion and density and all of those things. And it's when you can look at those aspects and go, I see you. I acknowledge you. I own you. And you know what? You played your part on my journey. And because my journey is perfect, and what I perceive to be bad experiences, I now recognize were just a perfect part of my journey, and gave me so much blessings and gifts, because it unlocked that bit more of me so that I can stand here in my full power. And from a neutral place. So it's not power over. It's, it's service. It's coming into your wholeness. That's what sovereignty is. It's reclaiming all aspects of yourself and loving it all, because it's all perfect.
Yes, exactly. I love that. And, that's been my path too, in having all of these, multidimensional aspects that I interact with. And, at some point realizing I've got to be, honor the truth of who I am and share this. And that's really my purpose and my service, to own. And I love that you went into those multidimensional beings and angels and guides. They are all you. They are all us, because at the highest level, we are all one. And what we're connecting to are aspects of self. And that is the multidimensional self. So tell me about, I know you go into the multidimensional self, becoming multidimensional, shifting timelines. Let's talk about shifting timelines. What does that mean to you?
We have choice points, and each choice point, if anybody knows the film Sliding Doors, it's like each choice point has a different possible outcome, reality, timeline. And so we're creating timelines all the time, based on what it is that we're wanting to create. They're possible eventualities, and we get hooked into certain timelines. And from a very human perspective, we're hooked into the lower dimensional timelines, the lower vibrational timelines of what we've known to be true. You know, the fact is, everything is energy, everything is vibration, everything is frequency. So the other aspect is that understanding that you are me and I am you. You're an aspect of me and I'm an aspect of you, as with everything out here. I think people will probably understand the whole timeline thing a bit more now, because everything is shifting really, really quickly. You know, before we had a pretty stable timeline that people kind of felt secure in the knowing of what was going to happen next week or what was going to happen next year. You could kind of plan ahead. Well, now the timelines are shifting. It's like shifting sand. There are so many timelines that are dissolving, falling away, and within each moment, people are creating other timelines to kind of compensate, because they're kind of thinking, "Oh my goodness, you know, what's going on? I want to recreate what we had." So there's another timeline being created. To me, I kind of see it as I get shown like fabric, really, really, really super fine fabric, layer upon layer upon layer upon layer upon layer. And that's like different possible timelines, different possible realities that we could hook into. But only one of those is going to be in alignment with our true resonance, in alignment with our highest and greatest good, in alignment with our highest, what we call highest timeline, or highest trajectory. But we can get hooked into any one of them through our beliefs, through our emotional patterns, you know, through wanting it to be the way it was. We can create a timeline that looks like that, that we want to hook into. And as a collective, that's what's happening. When people get shaken, they want to cling on. They want to cling on to what they knew. But what I'm shown is that what we're currently going through, which is why many people are feeling really quite disorientated, confused, anxious, might be getting headaches, dizziness, because they're off balance. They're feeling off balance because of everything is shifting so fast, so quickly. It's becoming far more ethereal in terms of the timelines, rather than being solid and grounded. If anybody's trying to anchor into these timelines, they're going to have a hard time of it. So the free gift that I've done was a channeled activation to enable people to anchor into the etheric highest vibration of Earth, that, you know, is coming in but is not solidly here yet, because we can't really anchor into anything solid, because it's an illusion, and we don't know what bit of that is going to be dissolving in a minute. So it's like allowing all to fall away. It's like the tarot card on the tarot deck, allowing the tower to collapse, allowing the physical timelines to collapse and dissolve, and all the financial systems, education system, health system, government system, everything you know system is connected with that. And so it can feel kind of scary to those who aren't aware. But it's like allowing that to happen. And it's not that you're kind of clearing space for the new to come in. It's that you actually can see through it. You can see the illusion of it, so that you don't get so deeply connected to it and try and anchor into it and hold on to it. It's like unplug the umbilical cord from all of those timelines, so that you can actually follow the golden thread that is from your heart, that is your unique highest trajectory. And it's kind of like, it's I know Celia Fenn said this last year about the cosmic dancer, and that's what came through for me. it's like dancing along these fabrics of reality, dancing along these different timelines, like the cosmic dancer, you know, not connecting solidly into anything. You're just lightly stepping from one to the next, following your golden thread, just allowing whatever to fall away, no kind of attachment, emotional, mental, anything to it, knowing that you're following, honing in on your highest trajectory, and, you know, you're fine, all is well. You know, it's allowing the kind of, in a way, the shamanic death of what you've known and who you knew yourself to be and everything, so that you can be re-embodied into your truth and a wider and greater understanding of what that truth really means on a global level.
I love that. Yeah, it's a beautiful visual of the, you know, that's truly the ultimate going with the flow, the cosmic flow. And you know, I know many people are experiencing this, and of course, you know, throughout this whole period of, well, really this whole year has been so up in the air for so many people. Like, well, what's going to happen next? And we don't know, and we can't grasp onto it, and we can't plan that far ahead because we don't know what's coming next. And yet, that's the very thing that will have. Some people will go into fear, of course, but others will just be like, okay, that's how don't you feel like that is more in alignment with what the new earth, what the 5D and higher experience of multidimensional living is? You can't, it's not A, B, C and black and white, and it's a lot of gray area and a lot of like being attuned to what is, and that might change from moment to moment. So we can't always know, but it's, I think, the release, the surrender into being okay with what is and honoring what is and allowing what is, and then being the best version of ourselves that we can be with each moment that arises.
Absolutely. I mean, the thing with the what we call the old paradigm is you know, sort of like the third dimensional structure. They are solid. It's solid. It's dense. You know, it has form to it. That's why you can plan, because A, then B, then C. That's the way it is. Mm-hmm. But the multidimensional can be A, then Z, then C, then F. It can be a whole different alphabet. You know, it's like just allowing yourself to step into that flow, which for a lot of people is really scary. But one of the things for me was like, the realization for me was that growing up and fitting in and playing the game of everybody else, I felt really locked into the choices that I made. Like, commitment was a big deal for me. If I said I was going to do something, I would do it. It didn't matter if I was really, really struggling that day and, you know, that was just the last thing that I really needed to do, I would still do it. There was no ability within me at that point, because I was caught in that cycle of going, actually, I'm going to feel into what feels right for me in this moment. And actually what feels right for me in this moment is to do this and not that. So I'm actually going to change my mind. Oh my goodness, change my mind? Go against the decision that I'd made previously? But that's where we're heading. It's like, regardless of what I said 2 minutes ago, what am I feeling in this moment? What is my truth in this moment? Where am I at? What would bring me joy? And for sure, if it still brings me joy to go and do what I said I would do 2 minutes ago, yeah, I'm going to go and do it. But if it no longer resonates, then I'm going to tune into what does in this moment. And it's having that flexibility to go with that flow and not being tied into the projections, which are mere illusions. Because, you know, we live in a world that's projected ahead of ourselves when that doesn't even exist yet, and miss the energy that we're currently actually in. So for me, this whole experience that we're going through at the minute, which is for me a real golden opportunity, and I'm not saying that it's not challenging. I mean, I'll hold my hand up. I've been challenged. I've been triggered. You know, the manipulation and control and freedom programs that have been a lot of pain in my life have reared their head, and I've kind of had to go, oh, okay, another level of you. Right, we'll go and clear that one out. But it's like, you know, stepping away from planning everything, projecting into the future, and just being in this now moment and being fully present. And I had a beautiful conversation with somebody the other day, and it's like, you know, when you're in thick fog, when you're in thick fog and you can't see beyond your arm, you don't have your head up looking into the future. You're looking at your feet. You're really present about where you're placing your energy, where you're placing your foot, because you don't want to bump into anything and you can't see anything beyond that. Well, that's where we're at. We're in thick fog. You can't see beyond your arm. So don't even bother trying, and just focus on where you're at and what you need to be doing for your welfare and your enjoyment, your fulfillment in this moment.
Yeah. You know, that brings up some stuff. And on one hand, yes, I absolutely agree. And I've been criticized many times for honoring my choice to change my mind when I said I would do something else. And yeah, it's part of what what didn't work in my marriage was the, you know, he had a really hard time when I would do that. I guess it's part of my human design as well. A manifesting generator doesn't decide they're going to do something until they're basically out the door. And at any moment, they might change their mind before that. So I'm like, yep, that's me. But there's this, so coming from that experience of being criticized for being that way, where is the, you know, the bridge between, you know, like the proverbial flaky hippie who's, you know, not honoring their word maybe, and being someone who honors your word but always honors, you know, that need of the soul to be in the flow. I think that gets a little tricky for people, because while you don't want to be the flaky one that lets people down, and you want to honor your word and be accountable, and, you know, you also want to honor the higher purpose and the divine when it says, hey, you have to change course here, to be able to do that.
I mean, in a way, again, that's trying to fit into a 3D model. So if everybody was honoring their truth, no one would have a problem. But because me honoring my truth might trigger somebody who's not honoring their truth, and it's like a little key that's unlocking that within somebody, and they might not like it. They might choose not to go down the awakening route, and that's their choice, and therefore rub against it. Or they might go, oh, okay, wow, that's literally just given me a permission slip to go, I get to honor my truth in each moment. So that's one aspect that's coming through. But, you know, we do live currently in this physical realm, this human form. And I guess for me, it's been that I don't like compromise, because compromise I've done my whole life. So I always say to people, you know, if it feels in alignment. So I put that out there first, because it's like, this is me, this is who I am. Yeah, right now it feels really good to do that. But if anything changes, I'm going to let you know. And I'm going to let you know in as much time as I can. But I have the deep knowing that everything is perfect and in perfect timing. And if something happens, it happens for a reason. I might have no idea what that reason is. I might never know what that reason is, because sometimes things don't line up because other things need to happen with other people or other situations. that I have no idea about. And so what I have learned in my life is that when I go against my truth, then I experience what I would consider a lesson. I experience something that I go, okay, that was interesting. Don't particularly want to go through that again. So for me now, it is that I let people know I'm upfront. I'm upfront about it, because it's like, you know, with my clients and things, we make an appointment, but I say to them, something comes up for you, and this is, you know, you need to postpone, you need to reschedule. Absolutely. But equally, something comes up for me, I need to postpone or reschedule, then I'm going to honor that as well. And I had a really good lesson with that when I went against that. And I did a client session, and I was really not feeling it at all. You know, stuff had happened that day. I was not in the place to open up as a channel. I got into the session and nothing was coming through. Nothing was coming through. And I was just like, I can't help you. And that really taught me something, because I'm not serving anybody if I'm going against my truth. You know, when somebody comes into connection with me, whether it's just a friendly chat in the supermarket or if it's a session with a client, I want to be 100% in that moment to give them exactly what it is that the universe has put us together in that moment to happen. Do you see what I mean? Yeah. So I kind of, it's been a journey for me, but I tend not to go down the kind of compromising to kind of fit in, because I've done that, been there, seen it, done that, worn the t-shirt.
Yeah, I think it comes down to, where is your highest alignment? And, you know, for me, there are priorities. I mean, I have to say my highest alignment is to spirit. That's why I chose to, you know, to go make spirituality my everything, it's not just my hobby. It's not just a pastime. It's my whole world, you know, in a lot of ways. And, you know, I'm sure you can relate. However, you know, I also have children, and I have a son who's in school, and if it's time to go pick him up, I'm going to go pick him up. Even if spirit's like, you know, I got something else for you. I'm like, that's going to have to wait, because I have this child that needs me right now, you know? So I think it's always just kind of like, it's a navigation, you know, like, okay.
I mean, the thing is to always remember that, you know, you know, if spirit is saying, oh, we get to go and do this, it's an aspect of you. It's like, yeah, fine. But actually, that aspect of you that's telling you we get to go and do this is not in physical form right now. Yeah. Does not understand what it's like to have agendas and timelines. I mean, I'm lucky. My son is 28. I don't have those anymore, but that's because, you know, at this point in my journey, it really is for me to fully commit to my truth. You know, if I'm going to teach somebody about standing in their sovereignty, I have to live it. So I'm not in that place where I have to do that anymore. But if I was, then yeah, absolutely, you're a divine being. You get to call the shots on this. I mean, years ago when I would talk to those aspects of myself as if I was having a conversation with somebody outside of me, it'd be like, you know, having that chat. Going, you know, I have to go and do this.
Yeah, I do that.
It's like, you know, I was a senior manager in the NHS, and I would be in a meeting, like a sickness return meeting or something, and I would have like enormous beings in the room with me saying, you've got to tell them this, and da, 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 and they need to know this. And I'm like, yeah, okay, I'm a senior manager in the NHS. I can't be doing this. This is not the hat that I'm wearing right now. But I mean, it got to the point where in the end I was like, okay, all right. But that's when I resigned.
Right. Highest alignment was to resign at that point.
I've trained in so many different modalities over the years. There could be color coming through. There could be sound. There could be light language. It may be, you know, I mean, if some people book a shamanic session, well, that's, you know, they get a shamanic healing, then that's slightly different. But in a normal session, it's like a mixed bag, and each session is completely different. And it's funny because sometimes people come with an agenda and they go like, I really want to get guidance on this, but if spirit's like, yeah, that's not actually relevant right now, you need to know this, then that's what comes through. I really do try to kind of go, yeah, but they really want to know this. But you know, I just trust it now.
Yeah. I don't do one-on-one so much anymore that way, but I used to do something similar, and I can relate to that. Sometimes people want to know something very particular or very specific, or want to have a certain result. And, you know, sometimes that happens, and sometimes there's a whole other plan.
Absolutely. And it's really funny because it's like, whenever a client's coming, they're coming from, and this is not meant in any way judgmentally or disrespectful, but they're coming from a very egoic perspective. You know, they're very connected to their ego. Otherwise, they would be receiving their own answers, because there is nothing outside of you. You know, all I am is those higher aspects of yourself that for some reason you're not connecting into yourself coming through, because I'm a reflection of that person. So it's like they come with questions and things that the small human wants to know, and it's usually that reassurance, you know, of either how to do something or that everything's going to be okay. So yeah, sometimes spirit is like, that's like, that's not the real question. The real question is this, or the real thing is this. So sometimes it can come through quite direct. It's not fluffy, you know, sometimes. And I used to try and kind of filter it and go, well, you can't say that. I can't say it like that. But now it's just, it comes through as it comes through.
Yeah, and people get what they need. And I know myself as a former practitioner of, you know, that type of one-on-one work, there were a couple times where I had a client that I'm like, oh, that one's not going to be coming back, because that was too much, like too intense, too direct, and then they go out a little flustered, but then, you know, a couple months later they call again and like, you know what, that was a powerful session for me, I want to come again. And it would always surprise me. And I just, you know, realized, you know, just began to understand, well, people get what they need, not always what they want, and it's not always what they want to hear, but they get what they need. And then whether they understand that in the moment or not, they go out into their lives and there's a realization like, wow, that did serve me, or not.
Absolutely. I mean, but we can witness that in our own journeys. I mean, I used to laugh at myself so much because I'd say I'd have an ostrich tendency. You know, I'd like bury my head in the sand for a bit and go, la, 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 I'm not listening, because, you know, they were calling me to, I mean, you know, when they called me to leave my husband, I hid in the sand. I didn't want to hear that right now. I wasn't ready to process that. It took me and various experiences that I had to go through in my life before I was like, yeah, okay, I'm ready to receive that message.
Yeah, there's guidance, and then there's our own timeline and our own sovereignty. And you know, it's a conversation sometimes. Of course, it's with ourselves, but higher dimensional aspects of self. But you know, I found it is always a navigation, like, okay, I hear that message and I will do it, but I have to do this first, or, you know, some other things have to line up over here. Sometimes it's just a go. But again, I think sometimes people that don't have that connection or aren't receiving so directly think that, oh, wouldn't it be wonderful to just have that direct guidance all the time? Then I never have to like wonder what's right, what I should do. But that doesn't go away.
No, and the other thing is that regardless of how many years you've been working on yourself or how connected you are, you know, whether you would consider yourself to be a conscious channel or not, they're never going to show you the whole roadmap, because there is no end destination. Yeah. You know, you literally get what you need in that moment for you to take that next step. Mm-hmm. But you may not be ready to take that next step, because regardless of how connected you are to your multidimensional aspects, you are still in a physical form. you are still very much connected to that egoic aspect of self that has been used to being connected to all these lower timelines and ways of seeing the world. Yeah. And it's, you know, it's hard sometimes to let go of everything that you've known, just because this voice or this knowing in your field is telling you this is the way you need to be going, this is what you need to be doing. It's like, I mean, when I got the mundane to magical, I was woken up at 4 o'clock in the morning with mundane to magical going on loop in my head. I thought I was going to go mad. And I'm like, what the hell is mundane to magical? And they're like, mundane to magical, you have to commit, mundane to magical. So I'm like, fine, Jesus. And I scribbled it on a pad by the bed. And I'm like, okay, I commit. Can I go to sleep now? And I did. I went straight to sleep immediately. I had no idea what it was. It took me 2 months for them to drip feed what that actually was, because at the point when I got it, I hated having my photo taken. Wow. I was so self-conscious. There was no way I would have been able to do an interview with somebody and be on camera and for that to go out global. I had a panic attack when I published my Facebook page.
Oh.
Outing myself like that was a major deal for me. So, my highest aspect knew, so it did it in a way that I could cope with. Mm-hmm. So sometimes we have to commit to something that actually our ego has no idea what we're talking about.
Yeah, I'm so on board with that one. When I did my first summit, I did not want to talk about the multidimensional beings, the ETs, because that was the one holdout. Even though I'd had experiences with them my whole life, I didn't want to put that out there, because of what comes back. And now look what I'm doing, exploring our galactic origins. Once I embraced it, I cried. When I did my opt-in video for that first one, I recorded it and I knew it was the one I had to use. I recorded it 28 times, by the way. It wasn't, but I went back to one of the very first ones I did. Yeah. And I cried because I knew I had to use that. And I didn't feel ready, but I was ready. But I didn't feel ready. And my guidance was so strong and so clear. That's the one. You're going to use it. Just get over it, get on with it. And so I did. And it really opened things up. And now I feel so secure in talking about those things and the dimensions. And, I don't know, it was just a part of myself that was holding myself back that I had to let go of. That's the changing of timelines. And wow, things really changed quickly after that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, really, this is just about us getting out of our own way.
Yes.
We deep within us, we know what we're here to do. Anybody who says, I don't know what my purpose is, I want to say bullshit. Because it's like, you do. You might not be ready for it. You might not, it might be one of those shadow aspects that you're too scared to go near at the minute. But there's an aspect of you that knows.
Yeah. And
really your journey is not to find out what it is, but to allow yourself to be courageous enough to go, do you know what? Yeah, I'm going to commit to it, whatever it is. I even don't need to know what it is. Just show me the steps.
Yeah, courage and commitment and tenacity. Those are the key ingredients.
I mean, the thing is, I said when I came out of my dark night of the soul, I said I wanted my life to be freedom and joy. That was what I was going to hold everything up against. Mm-hmm. Does whatever opportunity come my way give me freedom? Does it give me joy? If it didn't tick those two boxes, I wasn't interested. And that was how I navigated my way through. I had no idea where I was heading. That's all I had to go on, freedom and joy. So the better thing is to be as broad brush as you can be. Don't limit yourself to thinking, oh, it's going to look like this and it's going to be like this and I'm going to do this. I had no idea about the summit. You know, I couldn't have imagined that in my wildest dreams.
Wow. And here you are. It's time to close the hour. Do you have any final thoughts?
Just what is really coming through is it really doesn't matter what the external physical landscape looks like. Whatever is triggering you in this external landscape as you experience life right now is an opportunity for you to go within. Because everything that is outside of ourselves is a mere reflection of what's inside. So for me, it was the manipulation and control. So rather than, and I'm not saying I didn't dive into it, I did. So don't deny it, feel it, let the emotions flow, have you cry, have you scream, whatever it needs to be. But then go, that's really interesting that I was so triggered by that. And then do a little bit of investigation work and find that center, acknowledge it, own it, love it, thank it. And if it's no longer in resonance, if it doesn't feel like it's like, yeah, that's like, yay, then let it go. And that's all we have to do to unplug from these timelines.
Mm-hmm. And it's a great time for cleansing.
Oh, it sure is.
Thank you so much, Louise. I really appreciate you being here and sharing yourself with the Alchemy of Ascension viewers. And I appreciate all of your energy, and you're such a bright light. So thank you so much. And to all of the viewers, thank you for tuning in. It's just such a joy to me to let everybody know you are not alone on this path. There are so many of us, starseeds, light workers, and the community of the conscious community, and we're all here to support each other. So thank you for being a part of this, and have a beautiful day or evening wherever you are, and namaste.
Namaste. Thank you.
Thank you.